right, we're back here, WHIP Radio in Philadelphia, taking you up until noon Eastern time. Zach Gelb and Chase Sr. here with you. Game 6 is going to be tomorrow night at the Wells Fargo Center, starting at 7:30. Rangers get the win yesterday at the world's most famous arena by the final score of 4-2. Now joining us on the hotline is a former Rangers player, played with the Rangers from 1977 to 1983, and then returned with them from 1986 to 1988. Now working with MSG as an analyst, and that's Ron Duguay. Ron, it's Zach and Chase here in Philly. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you. I'm just kind of relaxing here in New York in my room. Beautiful New York day. I'm sure it's beautiful in Philly. And, when the Rangers win, it's a great town to be in.
And you know what? I love being the enemy here in Philadelphia, as I'm a Rangers fan, and everyone's cursing me out on my way to the station today. No one in the station likes me anymore, as my Rangers are one win away from putting the Flyers season to an end. But I made the trip up to New York yesterday to cover the game, and after the game, I went out to Cafe 31, which I'm sure you know about that place, with my mom and my dad to get a bite to eat. And I mentioned to them that we're having Ron Duguay on the show, and my mom, who doesn't really talk that much sports, her eyes just lit up, and she loved you when you were a player. She always talked about how good-looking you were, and her roommate was this lady by the name of Karen Snow, and they went to school together at American University, and they would used to stalk you after the games when you would play up against the Washington Capitals in the late 70s and early 80s, and you actually gave my mom's best friend Karen an autographed stick. How many times after games did you just have women flocking after you? It must be not a bad life to live of one Ron Duguay.
Yeah, well, that's the ultimate compliment. As I get it now, back then we weren't so protected. We allowed ourselves to be stalked, and so we got, we mingled and got up and close with the fans, and it was just part of who we were. We just felt like we were expected to do that. Today's player is very protected. It's hard for the fans to get up and close. So I think that even now, like I'll run into those fans that were fans of mine back in the late 70s, 80s, and that sort of thing. And I just appreciate my time with them. I appreciate hearing that I made a difference in their life, because I've been so detached as a player that you forget. And so when they bring back those memories for me, I love hearing it. I really appreciate it. Most times when I see a woman like that, I give her a big hug and thank her, and it's just a great moment for me.
Also talking about bringing back some memories, you played the Flyers a few times in the playoffs when you were a player. Does watching this series bring back some old memories of your days playing on the ice against the Flyers?
Yes and no. It's different now. It's a lot more civilized now than what we had to go through. Although playoff hockey, it tends to be a little different, because as a team, you got to be careful not to be taking too many stupid penalties. When I played the Flyers, it brought the best out of me, because if you weren't ready to play mentally and physically and really alert, that you're going to take a beating. And if you weren't out there skating hard, you weren't going to be very effective. And playoff hockey in general, for me, I always love, because forget about regular season. Playoff hockey, you are that much closer to winning, to actually winning the Stanley Cup. There's so much more attention. The fans are a lot more intense. And, I would love to go to the Spectrum, because they so hated me there that I wanted to do something, anything to kind of disrupt that and get them to hate me even more. And, but yeah, would I love to be on this Ranger team now and play the Flyers? Absolutely, because the game has so changed, with no clutching and grabbing. The pace is a lot quicker. And again, I'd love to be in Philadelphia, being in that atmosphere, which is, you got, there's so much energy, that love and hate, and so I love playoff hockey.
I've been able to make the trip from both Philly to New York for a bunch of these games, and it's right. You're right. It's been a great atmosphere. But let's get to yesterday's game. Flyers lose. They're now down 3-2 in this series, and they got 2 early power plays to open up this game. The power play unit for the Flyers have struggled in the postseason. What did you see go wrong yesterday for the Flyers on the extra man advantage?
Well, it's every game. Teams adjust. They adjust to what they're playing against. So, like the Rangers, where it's struggled against the Flyers on their penalty kill the game before. So the Rangers then go back and say, okay, we need to tweak this. Now we know what they're doing. We need to make some changes. And so it's constantly one team adjusting to the other. And I'm sure, like the Flyers, if they're having to kill a penalty in tomorrow night's game, they're going to be more prepared. They're going to do things differently. With the Rangers, I mean, they have some skilled players that are good at moving the puck around, and they have some good shooters. And they've been playing with. They haven't scored a whole bunch, but they're playing with quite a bit of confidence. And so for the Flyers, they just need to be quick, not just kind of sit back. They need to force the Rangers to have to make a move a lot quicker and anticipate where that puck is going, and then just get on them. Close the gap on them. And if they do that, then they're effective.
Former Ranger Ron Duguay joins us right now. And Ron, Claude Giroux, one of the best players in the NHL. He finished with 60-plus assists, 20-plus goals, but the Rangers have done just an excellent job of limiting him in this series. He has just one goal, only a couple of assists. How impressed have you been with the Rangers' game plan of just having a defender trail Claude Giroux and meeting him every time he crosses the blue line?
Yeah, well, that's a big part of the Ranger game. It's defense first. You wouldn't think that, because of how they play the game. They always look like they're going up the ice with a lot of speed, controlling the puck and that sort of thing. But really, the bottom line is a good defense, a good offense. So their concentration is on making sure, like, key players don't get that time and space. So they're on them really quick, and they got guys that are quick out there that can do that. What the Rangers are doing to Giroux is basically what Philly is doing to Nash. It's the same thing. When playoff hockey comes, it's completely different. They go after the top players, and they try to shut them down. It's like Crosby, Malkin. They're struggling. They haven't been scoring goals, so that's what it's like to play playoff hockey.
Rangers are obviously up 3-2, but even in the Flyers' 2 wins, I've seen the Rangers outplay the Orange and Black. How much does this series just come down to the Rangers being the better team on offense, defense, and special teams?
Yeah, I think more than anything, it's two things. One is having discipline not to take bad penalties, because if you're having to kill penalties, it just takes away from what you're trying to do as a team, 5-on-5 hockey. You got a general plan on how you want to play. You want to cycle through all your lines. And once you start having to kill penalties, it just breaks that momentum that you're trying to get. Like, if you're the home team, you want to come out and make sure you set the tone for the game, and then all of a sudden you take a penalty. That changes everything. So it's having the discipline and not take the bad penalties, basically what it comes down to, and just execute. It's all about the team that makes the least amount of mistakes.
We're spending a few minutes with Ron Duguay, former Rangers player, now an analyst with MSG. And Ron, let's get to Hal Gill. He was in for Grossman yesterday. Hal Gill had a -2 on the ice. I know Alain Vigneault after the game said they weren't really targeting him because he didn't play that many games this year. But did you see the Rangers go out there and throw some extra pucks the way of Hal Gill just because of the inexperience with him on the ice this season?
I can see that being part of the game plan, but the game is played so quickly. You're constantly responding to situations out there. If a winger is going up the ice and he's seeing that he's aware that he's going off against Hal Gill, yeah, he's going to think, okay, let's just dump it in his corner. Let's force him to turn. Let's force him to move his feet. Let's force him to make a play. And as a forward, if you're forechecking on the Flyers, you see that Hal Gill's about to handle the puck. You're on him real quick. So, yeah, there is an awareness, and you hope eventually he makes a mistake, because the game is quick out there, and if you haven't been playing, your timing is going to be off. Even though he has a bunch of experience, he's been good in the past. He's a big guy that carries a lot of weight, and you've got to be moving your feet up there.
And we all know how New York could get. When you don't play well in the playoffs, it gets very frustrating. The fans, they're always on you. And you mentioned Rick Nash a few moments ago, and you were a player that had very good regular seasons and some good postseason runs as you got to a Stanley Cup final. What advice would you give to Rick Nash about his playoff struggles? Because the fans are starting to get on him a little bit up there in New York.
You know what? I would, if I was... more than anything, I would want him to be nice and relaxed and feel like we're not applying pressure on you. Sometimes he has a tendency to not. I would say that I would want him to be a little more selfish with the puck when he gets into the offensive zone. We saw him 2 games ago where they were trying to get a late goal, and he went out there and just dominated the puck. He wanted the puck, he kept the puck, and he was beating guys one-on-one. I would want to see a little more of that, some sense of urgency occasionally. You don't want him to take away from, cycling the puck down low with his line mates, the give and goes that you need to do. But occasionally just decide, I'm just going to try to hold on to the puck as much as I can, try to beat guys one-on-one because he's capable of doing that. Other than that, defensively, he's fine. He's working hard. He's a winger. He's not a centerman. A winger, you're really depending more on your centerman to get the puck. If he was a centerman, it'd be a little bit different. There's more things you can do as a centerman. A winger, you're depending on your defenseman and your centerman.
Ron Duguay joins us right now. Rangers come up with a big 4-2 win yesterday at MSG. Game 6 tomorrow night in Philadelphia. And Ron, Steve Mason was superb in Game 4, came up with 37 saves. Does he have to turn in a performance like that for the Flyers to be successful and force a Game 7?
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about both teams look evenly matched in different ways. I had them evenly matched only if Mason was playing at his best. If he's not, or if Emery was in net, I felt like the Rangers had a slight edge. So if Emery's not at his best, it's not evenly matched because he's got to go against Lundqvist, who's been great.
The Rangers this series have done a great job of blocking shots, which on the power play can kill any momentum for the Flyers. How can the Flyers go about that and kind of game plan around the Rangers blocking those shots? Is there a particular route you take to kind of free up some passing lanes and some shooting lanes?
Well, a lot of it is not being stationary, especially like on a power play. Don't be stationary because if you're about to receive the puck and you're stationary, that defender, it's easier for the defender to kind of get in that shooting lane. So what you need to do as the puck is coming to you, you start moving your feet and you start going one side or the other. Then it makes it harder. Not only is the puck moving, but the player's moving. It makes it harder for that player to get in the shooting lane.
A few more questions for Ron Duguay before we let him go on WHIP Radio here in Philadelphia. Game 6 tomorrow night between the Rangers and the Flyers. The Rangers have a 3-2 lead. Let's get to Brad Richards. He's the ultimate pro, but last year he did struggle, especially in the postseason. Got scratched by John Tortorella, got a brand new start under AV, and he's really had an impressive performance this year and in the postseason. Got that goal yesterday to make it 2-0. What do you see out of Brad Richards in this postseason that was different from last year because he's really changed his game around?
Yeah, well, he had a good season. So because he had a good season, that just kind of carried into the playoffs. And why did he have a good season? Well, he had a fresh start. He had a fresh start, and he did something about it. I think he was embarrassed last year. He took the summer to get in better shape. And because he got stronger and in better shape, I think it's carried through the playoffs. And so as an older player, you need to have your legs. You need to have strength in your legs to be able to compete out there. So I think I'm seeing a little more strength in his legs. He had a good season. Also, he feels a little more relaxed with Coach Vigneault. Coach Tortorella can be hard on his players when they're not playing well if they're making mistakes. It's almost like having a gun to your head. With Coach Vigneault, if you make the occasional mistake, you'll have a conversation with the coach, but it's not. You don't feel that tension. You don't feel like you got two eyes on the back of your head as you're playing the game. You just feel more free to just go out there to continue to play if you're having a little bit of a struggle.
Before we let you run, this has been a Rangers team over the years that has had struggles closing out games, and we've seen a lot of Game 7s. The past two series up against the Capitals, that Ottawa series back when they made that run to the Eastern Conference Finals. Do you see the Rangers taking care of business tomorrow night in Game 6, or is this thing going 7?
I wouldn't be surprised either way. I know the Flyers have a lot of fight to them. I think they're well coached. Berube's doing a great job. They got some great leadership in that dressing room. If Mason comes up with a big game, I can see Game 7. But on the other hand, the Rangers, who are a good team on the road, they're well coached also. They have Lundqvist in net that if he's at his very best, he can win the game on its own. So I wouldn't be surprised either way. If I was to place a bet, I would put my money on the Rangers because of Lundqvist.
Ron, last one for me. Martin St. Louis in that trade struggled to find goals towards the end of the regular season, but he's been absolutely superb so far in this series. What has gone right for St. Louis? Because it seems as though he's always finding a spot on the ice where he can be successful.
I think having a different, I think he's found some comfort playing with Nash and Stepan. They, towards the end of the season, they weren't great, but there was some chemistry there. The puck movement was good. And it takes a certain type of player to be able to play with St. Louis because he's quick, and he needs guys that are willing to kind of play off of the way he plays. And so we started to see some of that towards the end of the season, and then it clicked in the playoffs. And for him, even though he had been through a lot as a veteran, there's still nerves there. And I just felt like he, as a New York Ranger playing in the Garden, he was still a little too uptight. And finally, he got to relax. Got a few goals, set up a few goals, and now we're seeing Marty St. Louis nice and relaxed, feeling comfortable as a New York Ranger.
Well, Ron, excellent job today. We appreciate the time. Enjoy the rest of your day up in New York, and we'll talk to you again real soon. We appreciate a few minutes, my friend.
Okay, yeah, game tomorrow night should be a lot of fun for everyone.
Ron Duguay right there joining us on the hotline. We'll take a quick break on WHIP Radio here in Philadelphia, and we'll be back right after these short messages.